What if the silence in your life is not empty at all? What if the delay, the confusion, the closed door, the long season of waiting is not a sign that life has forgotten you, but a sign that something greater is being moved into place for you? There are moments when everything looks still on the outside, and yet beneath that stillness, more is happening than you could ever see. A path is being cleared. A burden is being lifted. A lesson is being finished. A blessing is finding its way toward you. And even if your eyes cannot see it yet, even if your mind cannot explain it yet, the universe may already be quietly rearranging everything in your favor. Sometimes the hardest seasons are not the seasons where everything falls apart in a loud and obvious way. Sometimes the hardest seasons are the quiet ones, the ones where you ask for a sign and hear nothing, the ones where you pray, hope, wait, and wonder if anything is changing at all. The ones where you wake up and do your best to trust, but deep inside, a part of you is tired. A part of you wants to know when things will shift. A part of you wants proof that this waiting is not for nothing. And if that is where you are right now, then let this truth settle gently into your heart. Just because you cannot see movement does not mean there is no movement. Just because nothing has arrived yet does not mean nothing is on its way. There is so much happening beyond what the eyes can measure. Life is not only what appears in front of you, it is also what is being formed behind the curtain. It is the unseen timing, the hidden changes, the quiet redirections. The things that do not make sense while you are living through them, but later become the very reason you say, "Now I understand. Now I see why that had to happen. Now I see why that did not work. Now I see why the waiting mattered." In the moment, it can feel like life is standing still. But in truth, life may be doing some of its deepest work in the moments that seem the most silent. There are times when it feels like everything is being taken away at once. A plan changes, a connection fades, a chance slips through your hands, a door closes before you even get near it. And in those moments, the mind becomes afraid. The mind starts telling painful stories. Maybe I missed my chance. Maybe I am too late. Maybe I am being punished. Maybe life is not on my side. But not every ending is a loss, and not every delay is a denial. Some things leave because they cannot go where you are being led. Some things pause because you are being prepared for more than you can see right now. Some things fall away because they were never meant to stay in the life you are growing into. You may be standing in a chapter that feels unclear, and that can be deeply uncomfortable. Human hearts like to know. Human minds like plans, proof, and timelines. We want to know where this is going. We want to know when it will happen. We want to know what to do, what to fix, what to expect. But life does not always unfold in a straight line. Sometimes life moves like the sunrise, slowly, softly, almost in secret. For a while it still looks dark. For a while nothing seems to change. And then suddenly the sky begins to glow, and you realize the light had been coming all along. Maybe that is what this moment really is. Maybe you are not stuck. Maybe you are standing in the early light of something that has not fully appeared yet. Maybe what feels like emptiness is actually preparation. Maybe what feels like stillness is actually sacred movement. Maybe what feels like being overlooked is really life protecting you from what is not meant for you and leading you toward what is. Sometimes the universe works in whispers, not in noise. Sometimes the biggest changes begin in places that look ordinary, in a quiet thought, in a small shift, in a hidden ending, in a path that turns when you did not expect it to. There is a softness in this truth that the heart needs to hear again and again. You do not have to force every answer into view. You do not have to chase every outcome with fear. You do not have to carry the whole future on your shoulders. There is something bigger moving through your life than your worry can measure. There is a wisdom at work that can see farther than your fear. There is a timing deeper than your impatience. And even now, in this very moment, while you are still trying to understand what is happening, life may already be opening roads you have not walked yet, shifting things you cannot touch yet, and making room for the peace, love, healing, and support that truly belong in your life. Think of how many times you judged a season too early. How many times you thought something was the end, only to later discover it was a beginning. How many times you grieved what left, only to realize that what replaced it fit you better. How many times you were certain nothing good could come from a certain moment, and yet later, that very moment became part of your strength, your wisdom, your freedom, your growth. We often try to understand life too quickly. We ask for the full picture while standing inside one small piece of it. We want answers from the middle of the story. But the middle is not the end. The delay is not the end. The confusion is not the end. The quiet is not the end. Right now, even if your heart feels tired, even if your mind feels full, even if your path feels uncertain, something gentle and powerful may already be happening for you. Not against you, for you. That is the shift this moment asks of you. Not to pretend nothing hurts, not to deny your questions, not to force fake peace, but to allow the possibility that the universe is more loving than your fear has told you. To allow the possibility that this chapter has meaning, even before you understand it. To allow the possibility that things are being moved, healed, removed, and aligned in ways your eyes cannot yet follow. So breathe for a moment and let the pressure leave your chest. You do not need to know everything right now. You do not need to solve the whole path tonight. You do not need to understand every silence before peace is allowed to enter your heart. You only need to soften enough to consider that life has not stopped caring for you. The universe has not misplaced your blessing. Your future has not been forgotten. Your path has not disappeared. There is movement in the unseen. There is order in what feels messy. There is love in what feels delayed. There is guidance in what feels uncertain. And sometimes the most important thing you can do is stop calling the unseen empty. There is a reason your heart is being asked to trust more deeply. There is a reason some things have not come together the way you expected. There is a reason certain people, places, hopes, and patterns are being moved around. Rearranging does not always look beautiful in the middle of it. When a room is being prepared, things are pulled out of place before they are set right. When a life is being shifted, there can be discomfort before there is clarity. You may look around and think everything is out of order, when in truth, life may simply be creating a better order than the one you tried to hold on to. This is why you must be gentle with yourself in the waiting. Your heart was not made to know every hidden detail. Your spirit was made to feel, to trust, to receive, to listen, to grow. There is wisdom in not knowing everything all at once. There is peace in allowing the mystery to remain mystery for a little while. There is grace in saying, I may not understand this yet, but I choose not to fight what I cannot see. I choose not to turn every pause into panic. I choose not to call every delay failure. I choose to believe that something kind is still possible, even here. And what a powerful choice that is. To believe in quiet goodness when the world tells you to only trust what is visible. To believe in hidden support when things feel slow. To believe that life can be loving even when it is not immediately clear. This kind of trust is not weakness. It is not passivity. It is not giving up. It is a sacred strength. It is the kind of strength that lets the heart stay open when fear wants to close it. It is the kind of strength that says, I do not need to rush the unfolding. I do not need to tear open tomorrow to feel safe today. I can breathe here. I can trust here. I can rest here, even while things are still becoming. There is a quiet dignity in that kind of faith. A deep peace in choosing not to chase every answer. A healing in stepping back from the habit of control. Sometimes peace begins when you stop asking life to explain itself before you are willing to trust it. Sometimes relief enters when you stop demanding proof and start noticing small signs of care. A door you did not see before. A thought that suddenly brings calm. A burden that slowly grows lighter. A truth you were not ready to hear before, but can now receive. These shifts may seem small, but they matter. They are often the first signs that life is moving differently around you. You may not know it yet, but the very thing that feels uncertain today could be part of the answer you have been asking for. The thing that feels delayed may be what keeps you from settling for less. The thing that feels confusing may be what breaks an old pattern. The thing that feels empty may be making room for something fuller, truer, and more lasting than what you were trying to hold. This is why not every loss is loss. Not every pause is punishment. Not every silence is absence. Some silences are sacred. Some pauses are protection. Some endings are kindness in disguise. If your heart has been heavy, let this be the moment it begins to loosen. If your mind has been spinning, let this be the moment it takes one soft step back from fear. If you have been holding yourself tight, trying to force clarity out of uncertainty, let this be the moment you release just a little. Life is not always working in loud ways, but quiet does not mean inactive. Still does not mean stuck. Slow does not mean forgotten. There are forces of healing, timing, and grace that move without asking for attention. And right now, in ways you cannot fully measure, those forces may already be at work in your life. The main truth is simple, even if it takes time for the heart to fully trust it. The universe is not working against you. It is not trying to block your good, delay your joy, or keep you from the life that belongs to you. Even when things do not happen the way you hoped, even when the path turns without warning, even when the season feels slow and unclear, the universe may still be guiding you with great care. Not everything that feels painful is harmful. Not everything that feels uncertain is wrong. Sometimes what looks like a problem is really a rearrangement. Sometimes what feels like loss is actually life-making room. This truth matters because the mind can become very dramatic when things do not go according to plan. The mind likes to turn delay into rejection, confusion into danger, and change into failure. The mind wants answers now. It wants proof now. It wants certainty now. And when it does not get those things, it begins to panic. But the deeper wisdom of life does not move from panic. It moves from order, even if that order is hidden for a while. It moves from timing, even if that timing does not match your wishes. It moves from truth, not from fear. And because of that, many things in your life may need to shift before they are ready to stay. There are times when you ask for one thing, but life is preparing something deeper. You ask for quick relief, and life begins deep healing. You ask for one open door, and life starts changing the whole road. You ask for one answer, and life begins changing the questions you have been asking. This can feel frustrating if you are only looking at the surface. But if you step back, you may begin to see that the universe often works with a wider view than the one you hold in a difficult moment. You may be focused on what is missing, while life is focused on what must be made ready. You may be focused on what has not arrived, while life is focused on who you are becoming. That is why the universe does not always say yes in the way the mind expects. It does not always give things quickly just because you want them now. It does not always allow every path to remain open. It does not always keep every person, plan, or opportunity in place. And while that can feel disappointing in the moment, there is often wisdom in what does not happen. There is often grace in what leaves. There is often protection in what is delayed. There is often love in what gets redirected. The universe is not only giving, it is also sorting, clearing, shaping, aligning. It is quietly placing the right things where they belong and removing what cannot travel with you into the life ahead. This is the part many people miss. They think support should always look easy. They think being guided should always feel comfortable. They think blessings should always arrive in forms they recognize right away. But life is more mysterious than that. Sometimes support looks like stillness. Sometimes guidance looks like interruption. Sometimes protection looks like disappointment. Sometimes grace looks like being forced to slow down. Sometimes favor looks like a door closing so firmly that you finally stop trying to fit yourself into a life that was never right for you. There is such comfort in understanding this. It softens the fear. It removes the feeling of being punished. It gives the heart a new way to read what is happening. Instead of saying, "Why is everything going wrong?" you begin to ask, "What is being moved into place?" Instead of saying, "Why is this not working?" you begin to ask, "What is life trying to shift?" Instead of saying, "Why am I being blocked?" you begin to ask, "What am I being protected from? And what am I being prepared for?" These are very different questions, and they open a very different inner world. When you believe life is against you, you become tense. You brace yourself. You watch everything with fear. You expect loss, pain, and rejection. And because of that, even good things can feel unsafe. But when you begin to believe that life may be quietly working in your favor, something changes inside you. You breathe differently. You listen differently. You stop reacting to every delay as if it were the end. You begin to hold uncertainty with more softness. You begin to leave room for mystery. You begin to trust that there may be goodness in motion long before it becomes visible. This does not mean every moment feels easy. It does not mean you never cry, never question, never feel tired. It does not mean you enjoy every chapter while you are living through it. It simply means you stop making fear the only voice you trust. It means you let a deeper voice speak too, a quieter voice, a wiser voice. A voice that says, "Wait, do not decide too quickly that this is against you. Do not name this chapter too soon. Do not call yourself abandoned in the middle of a rearrangement. There is more happening here than you can see right now." Imagine a room being changed. Furniture is moved. Old things are taken out. Dust is stirred up. For a while, the room looks worse, not better. It looks messy. It looks unsettled. It looks unfinished. If you walked in halfway through, you might think something had gone wrong. But if you stayed long enough, you would see that the disorder was part of the preparation. The room had to be disturbed before it could become beautiful again. In the same way, your life may look out of place in the middle of a sacred shift. Things may feel unsettled because they are being rearranged, not because they are ruined. This is why patience is such a spiritual practice, not just waiting with frustration, but waiting with trust, not demanding to control every outcome, but allowing life to breathe. The universe is rarely in a hurry, yet it is never late in the deeper sense. It works with patterns, lessons, timing, and readiness. It sees what must happen behind the scenes so that what arrives can truly stay. What comes too early may not last. What arrives before you are ready may become something you cannot hold with peace. What seems delayed may actually be ripening. There is a great difference between being denied and being prepared. One closes the heart, the other deepens it. One says you are not allowed, the other says not yet, because something more complete is being formed. The universe often moves this way. It does not always hand you a finished blessing before the ground beneath it is steady. It often prepares the ground first. It clears what does not belong. It teaches what must be learned. It strengthens what must be strengthened. It shifts your vision so you can receive what is coming with more clarity and less fear. That means the season you are in right now may have far more meaning than it first appears to have. The waiting may not be empty. The change may not be random. The discomfort may not be pointless. There may be quiet wisdom inside all of it. A wisdom that can only be seen when you stop fighting the chapter long enough to listen to what it is trying to teach you. Sometimes the universe whispers before it moves loudly. Sometimes it asks for stillness before it opens the next door. Sometimes it empties your hands before it places something new in them. There is no need to punish yourself because you do not understand the full picture yet. You are not failing because you do not know what comes next. You are not behind because life is moving in a way you did not plan. You are in process. You are in formation. You are in a season where things may be changing under the surface long before they change on the outside. This is why trust matters so much. Not because trust makes the path instantly easy, but because trust lets your heart stay open while the path unfolds. The universe is not hurried by your fear, and it is not confused by your present uncertainty. It knows how to move pieces you cannot move. It knows how to create meetings, moments, openings, endings, and beginnings that your mind could never fully arrange on its own. It knows how to bring truth to the surface. It knows how to expose what no longer fits. It knows how to lead you away from what looks good but is not good for you. It knows how to guide you toward what is truly aligned, even if that path first appears unfamiliar. And here is the tender part. You do not have to manage all of that. You do not have to force the universe to do what it already knows how to do. You do not have to hold every thread in place. You do not have to keep checking the sky to make sure the sunrise is still coming. Your task is not to control the whole unfolding. Your task is to stay open enough to let life work with you, to listen, to soften, to release the belief that every hard moment must mean the universe has turned away from you. The truth is, life may be kinder than it feels in certain moments. Not because pain is not real, but because pain is not always the full meaning of what is happening. A closed door can hurt and still be grace. A delay can frustrate you and still be wisdom. An ending can break your heart and still be a beginning in disguise. The universe works with layers. What hurts on one level may be helping on another. What disappoints today may protect tomorrow. What confuses the mind may strengthen the soul. Once you begin to understand this, you start relating to your life in a new way. You stop treating every pause like a personal failure. You stop calling every unknown a threat. You stop assuming that visible progress is the only kind of progress. You begin to value what is invisible too. Inner healing, quiet clarity, slow growth, subtle redirection, the release of old habits, the soft return of hope. These are not small things. These are often the real rearrangements that make the outer changes possible later on. So when you look at your life, try not to only ask what is not here yet. Ask what is being shifted. Ask what no longer fits. Ask what part of you is being strengthened. Ask what truth is trying to rise. Ask what pattern is being broken. Ask what your spirit is learning in the silence. These questions do not always bring instant answers, but they bring you into partnership with the deeper movement of life. They help you stop standing against the current and start recognizing that you may already be carried by something wiser than fear. And perhaps this is the deepest truth of all. The universe is not asking you to know every answer before you are allowed peace. It is asking you to trust that peace can begin now, even while answers are still forming. It is asking you to believe that your life is not abandoned in the waiting. It is asking you to make room for the possibility that things are being rearranged with more love, care, and wisdom than your present eyes can yet understand. That is not blind faith. That is spiritual maturity. That is the courage to remain open in the middle of uncertainty. If the universe is quietly rearranging things in your favor, then why does life sometimes feel so hard? Why do certain seasons feel heavy, slow, painful, and full of questions? Why does guidance sometimes feel more like confusion than clarity? Why does change sometimes feel more like loss than support? These are real questions, and the heart deserves a gentle answer. The reason it can feel hard is because rearrangement is not always comfortable while it is happening. Growth stretches, change disrupts. Healing exposes what has been hidden, and letting go can feel painful even when it is making room for something better. Many people think that if life is moving in the right direction, it should feel smooth all the time. They think that being supported should mean no discomfort, no waiting, no grief, no uncertainty. But life does not usually work that way. Sometimes the greatest support comes in forms the mind does not like at first. Sometimes the path becomes hard because the old way can no longer hold the life that is trying to emerge. Sometimes a chapter becomes uncomfortable because your soul has outgrown it, even if your habits have not yet caught up. Sometimes things become difficult because something false is being shaken loose. You may have noticed this in your own life. There are moments when the things that once felt normal begin to feel heavy. Places that once felt familiar begin to feel smaller. Patterns that once felt safe begin to feel painful. It is not always because something is wrong. Sometimes it is because something inside you is waking up. Something in you begins to know that you cannot keep living from the same fear, the same silence, the same compromise, the same old story. But before a new way becomes clear, there is often a season where the old way stops feeling possible and the new way has not fully appeared yet. That in-between place can feel very hard. This is one reason life can feel confusing. You are no longer meant for what was, but you cannot fully see what is coming. You are between chapters, between versions of yourself, between old belief and new truth, between what used to fit and what has not yet arrived. That space can feel lonely. It can make you question yourself. It can make you wonder if you are doing something wrong. But many times, that in-between space is not a sign of failure. It is a sign of transition. It is where life loosens what cannot continue and prepares what can. Another reason things feel hard is that human beings naturally grow attached. We attach to plans, routines, expectations, identities, and people. We attach to how we thought life should look. We attach to what felt familiar, even if it was not truly peaceful. So when the universe begins to shift things, we often feel resistance before relief. We do not immediately celebrate the change. We first grieve what we thought would happen. We first mourn what we wanted to keep. We first feel the discomfort of not knowing. This is part of being human. It does not mean you lack faith. It means your heart is learning how to release one version of life so it can receive another. That release can feel especially hard when you do not yet see what is replacing what has been lost. If one door closes and another opens right away, the mind feels calmer. But if one door closes and there is only silence for a while, fear begins to speak loudly. That silence can make the heart feel abandoned. It can make the soul feel forgotten. It can make ordinary days feel heavier than they need to be. But silence is not always abandonment. Sometimes silence is sacred space. Sometimes silence is where roots deepen. Sometimes silence is where the unseen work is happening. Think of a seed in the soil. Before anything rises above the ground, there is a hidden season beneath it. In that hidden season, the seed breaks open. Something old ends, so something new can begin. But from the outside, nothing seems to be happening. If you judge too quickly, you would say the seed is doing nothing. You would say the ground is empty. You would say the waiting is pointless. But the truth is, the deepest changes are happening underground. This is often how spiritual growth feels too. While you are in it, you may think nothing is working. Yet below the surface, your roots are forming. The hard parts of life often come from this mismatch between what is visible and what is real. You look at the surface and see delay, but underneath, preparation may be happening. You look at the surface and see loss, but underneath, life may be making room. You look at the surface and see confusion, but underneath, an old illusion may be clearing. You look at the surface and see stillness, but underneath, timing may be aligning things with great care. It feels hard because the human mind is not comfortable with hidden processes. It wants visible proof. It wants immediate signs. It wants to know that the discomfort has a purpose before it agrees to trust it. There is also the pain of old wounds rising during change. When life becomes uncertain, it often touches every place inside you that still fears loss, rejection, unworthiness, or being left behind. That is why some seasons feel harder than the event itself. The present moment awakens old pain. A delay may remind you of every time you felt forgotten. A closed door may remind you of every time you felt not enough. A season of silence may stir old fear that nothing good is coming. This makes the present feel even heavier. You are not only dealing with what is happening now, you are also meeting what was never fully healed before. This is important to understand because it helps you be more compassionate with yourself. Sometimes you are not overreacting. You are carrying old fear into new moments. Sometimes your pain is not only about the present event. It is about the meaning your heart has attached to it. If you think a delay means you are forgotten, the delay becomes much heavier. If you think a closed door means you are unworthy, the disappointment cuts deeper. If you think a season of rest means you are falling behind, even peace can feel unsafe. The mind turns moments into messages, and when those messages come from old pain, life feels harder than it has to. That is why one of the deepest spiritual lessons is learning to read life differently. Not every difficult moment is a message that you are failing. Not every pause is a message that you are forgotten. Not every challenge is evidence that life has turned against you. Sometimes a challenge is simply a passage. Sometimes difficulty is part of the releasing. Sometimes heaviness comes right before a shift because the old weight is finally ready to be seen and put down. This does not make pain unreal. It simply changes how you hold it. It lets you suffer less inside the story you tell about what is happening. Things also feel hard sometimes because growth asks you to become someone you have not fully practiced being yet. It asks you to trust more deeply than you used to rest in uncertainty instead of controlling every outcome, to release what is familiar, to believe in your worth without constant proof, to let yourself receive instead of only struggle. These shifts sound beautiful, but they are not always easy when you are learning them in real time. The old self does not disappear in one day. Fear does not leave the body all at once. New faith often grows slowly. So there can be tension inside you as one part learns to let go and another part still wants to hold on. That inner tension is part of why the path can feel exhausting. One part of you is ready for peace. Another part still believes it must earn peace through worry, effort, and overthinking. One part of you wants to trust the universe. Another part is afraid that if it relaxes, everything will fall apart. One part knows life is guiding you. Another part still wants to control the route. This is why spiritual growth is not just about learning new truths. It is also about slowly becoming able to live inside those truths. And that takes time, patience, and compassion. There are also seasons when life feels hard because it is showing you clearly what no longer works. This kind of hardship can be a teacher. It reveals where you have been ignoring yourself, betraying your peace, repeating old patterns, or staying in places that no longer fit your spirit. It is not pleasant to see these things, but seeing them is often the first step toward freedom. Sometimes life feels hard because the truth is finally becoming too clear to avoid. What once felt manageable no longer does. What once seemed normal begins to hurt. What once kept you distracted no longer keeps you asleep. That discomfort can be sacred if you let it show you what must change. And then there is the simple truth that being human is tender. You care, you hope, you dream, you attach meaning to people and plans. You get tired. You want things to make sense. You want your heart to feel safe. So when life becomes uncertain, of course it affects you deeply. Of course it feels hard. Spirituality is not about pretending that pain does not hurt. It is not about acting untouched by disappointment. It is not about forcing yourself to call every hard thing beautiful before your heart is ready. It is about learning to stay present, gentle, and open even when the chapter is difficult. It is about learning that pain can be real without being final. Sometimes life feels hard because what is leaving does not leave quietly. Old fears resist being released. Old identities do not disappear without grief. Old dreams are not always easy to surrender. There can be tears in a transition, even when the transition is right. There can be sadness in a blessing, if that blessing requires you to outgrow what once felt safe. There can be loneliness in healing, if healing changes what you can tolerate. There can be discomfort in becoming, because becoming asks you to leave behind many versions of yourself that once helped you survive. This is not a mistake. This is often the price of deeper peace. If you are in a hard season right now, it does not mean you are lost. It does not mean life has stopped caring for you. It does not mean the universe has forgotten your prayer. It may simply mean that something is shifting, loosening, breaking open, or being made ready in ways that are not comfortable yet. The middle of transformation rarely feels neat. It often feels uncertain, emotional, and messy. But messy does not mean meaningless. Slow does not mean wrong. Tender does not mean weak. Hard does not mean hopeless. What if the hard season is not here to destroy your trust, but to deepen it? What if the waiting is teaching you how to rest without having all the answers? What if the loss is clearing what no longer belongs? What if the confusion is breaking the illusion that you were supposed to control everything? What if the silence is where your heart learns how to listen again? These questions do not erase difficulty, but they give it space to breathe. They give your pain dignity without letting fear tell the whole story. There is something beautiful that begins to happen when you stop asking only, "Why is this so hard?" and begin asking, "What is this making room for?" That question opens the spirit. It softens resistance. It reminds you that discomfort can be part of change, not just evidence of something wrong. It lets you stand inside the unknown without making the unknown your enemy. And this matters because the way you meet a hard season shapes what that season becomes inside you. If you meet it only with panic, it hardens you. If you meet it with trust and honesty, it can deepen you. So life can feel hard. The waiting can feel long. The changes can feel painful. The silence can feel heavy. But none of that automatically means life is against you. Sometimes hard seasons are the very places where unseen favor is doing its quiet work. Sometimes the path becomes difficult because you are being turned away from what would not honor your spirit. Sometimes things feel uncertain because the old structure is no longer strong enough for the life that is trying to come through you. Sometimes what hurts is not the end of your story. It is the breaking open of it. If you can hold that truth gently, without pressure, without forcing yourself to be positive before you are ready, something begins to soften. You stop making your pain mean you are abandoned. You stop making your questions mean you are doing life wrong. You stop making uncertainty mean disaster. Instead, you begin to understand that hard seasons are often holy seasons too. They are the places where the soul is stretched, where the old self loosens, where trust deepens, where false support falls away, and where a wiser kind of peace slowly begins to grow. And perhaps that is what this moment is asking of you now. Not to pretend the path is easy, not to deny the ache, not to act as though waiting feels simple, but to stop deciding too quickly that hardship means life is against you. To leave room for mystery, to leave room for hidden preparation, to leave room for the possibility that even now, in the middle of the questions, the universe is still moving with love, quietly, patiently, carefully, rearranging what you cannot yet see, so that one day you may look back and understand that even this hard season was part of the favor. There comes a point in every spiritual journey where you are asked to trust what you cannot yet see. This is not always easy. In fact, it may be one of the hardest things the heart is ever asked to do. It is one thing to trust when the path is clear, when signs are obvious, when progress is visible, when life is moving in the direction you hoped for. But it is something very different to trust when nothing looks certain, when the answers are quiet, when the next step is hidden, and when your mind keeps asking for proof that everything will be all right. This is the kind of trust that changes you. This is the kind of trust that teaches the soul how to rest in something deeper than appearances. Most people are taught to trust only what they can touch, count, explain, or control. They trust what is visible. They trust what is already formed. They trust what has already happened. But the spiritual path asks for another kind of trust. It asks you to believe that life is still moving even when the road is not obvious. It asks you to believe that something can be working for you before it becomes visible in your outer world. It asks you to believe that unseen help is still help, that quiet movement is still movement, and that an answer does not need to be fully formed before it can already be on its way to you. This kind of trust is not blindness, it is not denial, it is not pretending that uncertainty feels easy. It is simply the refusal to let fear become the only voice you listen to. Fear always wants visible proof before it relaxes. Fear says, "Show me the whole path, and then I will trust. Show me the result, and then I will breathe. Show me that nothing can go wrong, and then I will let go." But life rarely works that way. The path often appears one step at a time. The answer often arrives in layers. The blessing often begins quietly. And if you wait to trust only after everything becomes clear, you may spend most of your life fighting the very process that is trying to guide you. There is a great peace that begins to grow when you stop demanding that life explain itself before you are willing to soften. Not because questions disappear, but because your grip on those questions becomes gentler. You stop asking from panic and begin listening from stillness. You stop treating the unknown like an enemy and begin making room for it as part of the unfolding. You begin to understand that not seeing the full picture does not mean there is no picture. It simply means you are standing in one part of it. You are in a chapter, not the whole story. You are in a moment, not the final meaning of your life. How many times have you already lived through things you did not understand at first? How many times did life take a turn you would never have chosen, only for that turn to bring growth, strength, healing, wisdom, or unexpected good? There were moments in the past when you were sure something was wrong because you could not yet see what it was leading toward. And yet time revealed what fear could not. Time showed you that life had a wider view. Time showed you that some things had to leave, some things had to pause, and some things had to break open so that something truer could enter. If that has happened before, then perhaps it is possible that it is happening again now. Trusting what you cannot yet see is a sacred act because it teaches you how to live from the heart and not only from the eyes. The eyes look for evidence. The heart listens for truth. The eyes focus on what is present in this moment. The heart can feel when something deeper is moving, even before it becomes real in visible form. There are times when your spirit knows before your mind understands. There are times when the next chapter has already begun within you, even though your outer life has not caught up yet. There are times when a quiet inner knowing is more accurate than the loud fear around it. This is why silence is not always empty. Sometimes silence is the place where truth becomes easier to hear. When the noise of panic fades, when the habit of overthinking grows still for even a moment, something quieter can speak. A feeling, a sense of direction, a soft peace. A knowing that you are not being dropped, even if you are being redirected. A knowing that you are not being denied, even if you are being delayed. A knowing that the path is not absent, only hidden for a little while longer. That kind of knowing does not always come with words. Sometimes it comes as calm in the middle of not knowing. Sometimes it comes as the simple feeling that you do not need to force the next step before it is time. What makes trusting the unseen so difficult is that the mind wants to protect you by staying ahead of life. It wants to predict, prepare, calculate, and control. It believes that if it can figure everything out in advance, then nothing painful will happen. But no amount of overthinking can guarantee a pain-free life, and often the attempt to control everything creates a different kind of pain. It fills the body with tension. It fills the heart with pressure. It makes every delay feel dangerous. It turns uncertainty into a daily burden. Yet when you begin to trust that life can guide you without your constant gripping, something within you starts to loosen. The body softens. The breath deepens. The nervous system begins to remember that peace is possible even before the answer arrives. This does not mean you stop caring. It does not mean you become passive. It means you stop trying to drag tomorrow into today. It means you stop treating every unknown as if it must be solved right now. It means you let the future unfold in the timing that belongs to it, instead of trying to force it to appear before it is ready. Trust is not laziness. Trust is cooperation with a wisdom greater than panic. It is the ability to say, I may not understand this yet, but I do not need to turn this moment into fear. I may not know the outcome yet, but I do not need to fill the waiting with struggle. I may not see the path yet, but I trust that the next step will appear when it is time. There is deep healing in that kind of surrender. Not the surrender of giving up, but the surrender of releasing what was never yours to carry alone. You were never meant to control every outcome. You were never meant to hold the entire future in your mind at once. You were never meant to solve every mystery before your heart was allowed to rest. There is a difference between being responsible for your life and trying to control all of life. One is healthy, the other is exhausting. One asks for presence, the other creates fear. One allows you to move with truth, the other traps you in constant tension. The unseen can feel uncomfortable because it asks you to grow beyond old habits. It asks you to stay open while life is still forming. It asks you to believe in movement before there is visible proof. It asks you to become someone who can rest in the middle of becoming. And yet, that is where so much spiritual strength is born. Not in having all the answers, but in learning not to collapse every time you do not. Not in forcing clarity, but in staying soft long enough for clarity to rise on its own. Not in controlling life, but in trusting that life knows how to hold what you cannot yet see. What if this very season is teaching you that lesson now? What if the reason the path feels hidden is because you are being invited into deeper trust? What if the answer has not fully appeared because your spirit is learning how to rest before it arrives? What if this chapter is less about getting immediate results and more about becoming the kind of soul that can hold those results with peace? These questions matter because they shift the whole feeling of the journey. They turn waiting into preparation. They turn silence into sacred space. They turn uncertainty into a place where faith can grow roots. When you trust what you cannot yet see, you stop making fear your guide. You stop letting every delay define your worth. You stop turning every pause into a story of lack. Instead, you begin to practice a quieter truth. I do not need to know everything to trust that life is still moving. I do not need proof of every detail to believe that something is being worked out. I do not need the full map to take the next honest step. There is something powerful in that. It gives you back your breath. It gives you back your presence. It reminds you that peace does not have to wait until the future becomes visible. So if the path feels hidden right now, let that be all right. If the answer has not fully formed, let that be all right. If you are being asked to trust more deeply than you wanted to, let that be all right too. There is grace in not knowing. There is wisdom in the unseen. There is movement in the silence. There is love in what is being prepared beyond your view. And sometimes the greatest act of faith is simply this: to stay open while the universe continues its quiet work. Think of your life as a great woven tapestry. When you stand very close to it, all you can see are tangled threads. One color crosses another in ways that make no sense. Some parts look uneven, some look dark, some seem unfinished. From where you stand, it can look messy, confusing, and incomplete. You may focus on one hard thread and think the whole design has gone wrong. You may look at one painful section and decide nothing beautiful could possibly come from it. but that is only because you are seeing it from too close. You are seeing only the thread in front of you, not the full image that is being formed. This is often how life feels when you are living it day by day. You do not see the whole picture. You see the waiting, the delay, the closed door, the loss, the uncertainty. You see the one conversation that hurt, the one plan that failed, the one hope that has not arrived. And because those moments are right in front of you, they can begin to feel bigger than they really are. But your life is more than one thread. Your story is more than one season. What feels tangled now may later become part of the very beauty that makes the whole picture complete. A tapestry is not woven in a straight line that the eye can easily understand while it is being made. Threads cross, disappear, return, and connect in ways that only make sense from a wider view. The same is true for your life. A person enters and leaves. A dream rises and fades. A path opens and then closes. A season of joy is followed by a season of silence. A delay you did not want becomes the reason you were in the right place at the right time later on. A disappointment you resisted becomes the door to something more honest, more peaceful, more aligned than what you were trying to hold. While it is happening, it often looks like disorder, but from the higher view, it may be part of a pattern your present eyes cannot yet see. This image matters because it reminds you not to judge your whole life by one unfinished section. Just because this moment is hard does not mean the design is broken. Just because one part is dark does not mean the whole image will be dark. Just because you cannot yet understand the crossing of certain threads does not mean they are there by mistake. There is a larger wisdom at work, a deeper order. A patient hand moving each thread into place with care. The universe sees what you cannot yet see. It sees where this thread leads. It sees how this ending connects to that beginning. It sees how this loss opens space for that healing. It sees how what looks random up close is part of something meaningful when viewed as a whole. When you remember this, you begin to soften your need to understand every single detail right now. You begin to allow the possibility that this part is unfinished, not ruined. That this chapter is developing, not falling apart, that this thread of pain may one day be woven into wisdom, compassion, strength, peace, or freedom. Many of the most meaningful things in your life did not look meaningful at first. They looked inconvenient. They looked uncertain. They looked like detours. But time revealed what the moment could not. The same may be true for what you are living now. There is another image that speaks to this truth. Think of a river. A river does not force its way in panic. It moves with steady wisdom. It bends when it needs to bend. It slows in some places and deepens in others. It moves around stones without losing its direction. It does not become afraid because the path curves. It does not stop being a river because it cannot see the whole journey from one point along the shore. It trusts its own movement. It trusts that every bend still belongs to the path. So much suffering comes from trying to live like a clenched fist instead of a flowing river. You try to control every turn. You resist every change in direction. You grip so tightly to one idea of how life should look that when the current bends, you feel betrayed. But the river teaches something gentler. It teaches that movement does not need to be forced to be real. It teaches that direction can still exist even when the path curves. It teaches that softness is not weakness. It teaches that life can carry you further when you stop fighting every bend in the journey. Imagine standing beside that river for a moment. The water moves quietly, steadily, without panic. It knows how to travel even when the path changes. It knows how to keep going without demanding that every part of the journey be straight. The river does not waste itself arguing with each stone. It does not freeze at every obstacle. It continues. It adapts. It trusts the pull that guides it forward. In the same way, your life may be asking you to move with more sit and less resistance. Not because every bend feels easy, but because every bend may still be taking you where you need to go. There is also the image of a seed beneath the soil. This one speaks especially to seasons of silence and waiting. A seed is placed in darkness before it ever reaches the light. It is covered, hidden, unseen. If you looked only at the surface, you might think nothing is happening. But under the ground, a great transformation is taking place. The seed breaks open, roots begin to form, life starts in secret. The very shell that once protected it must split before growth can begin. And all of this happens long before anyone can point to visible progress above the soil. How often does your own life feel like that? Buried, hidden, quiet, unclear. You may be in a season where you look at the surface and see no proof that anything is changing. But that does not mean change is absent. It may mean you are in the root-building stage. It may mean life is strengthening you beneath the visible layer. It may mean what is growing in you is still too sacred, too new, too tender to appear yet. Seeds do not bloom the moment they are planted. They need darkness, time, stillness, and trust. So do many of the deepest things in life. The beauty of these images is that they remind you that nature already knows how to trust the process. The river does not panic at the curve. The seed does not curse the soil. The tapestry does not argue with each thread. There is a quiet intelligence in all of creation. Everything moves in season. Everything unfolds by stages. Everything grows in ways that are not always obvious while it is happening. And you too are part of that same life. You are not separate from that wisdom. You are not outside the same deep order. The same intelligence that moves rivers, grows seeds, and weaves patterns through nature is also moving through your life. So when you feel confused, remember the tapestry. You may be standing too close to see the beauty. When you feel frustrated by change, remember the river. A bend in the path is not the loss of direction. When you feel hidden in silence, remember the seed. Growth can be real long before it becomes visible. These images are more than comforting ideas. They are reminders of how life actually works. Not always loudly, not always quickly, but with wisdom, timing, and a deeper order than fear can understand. What if your life is not as scattered as it seems right now? What if your waiting is not wasted? What if your detour is still part of the route? What if your hidden season is full of roots? What if the threads that confuse you most today will one day become the very parts of your story that reveal the design? Sometimes a spiritual image can say what the mind struggles to understand. It can soften the heart and make room for trust. It can remind you that mystery is not chaos. Process is not failure. Unfinished does not mean wrong. It only means the weaving is still happening, and perhaps that is enough for now. Not full answers, not complete clarity, just the quiet knowing that life may be moving with more order than you can currently see. The tapestry is still being woven. The river is still flowing. The seed is still growing. You do not need to force the picture to finish before it's time. You do not need to straighten every curve. You do not need to dig up the seed to check if it is growing. You only need to trust that the unseen has its own sacred work, and that this work may be quietly shaping everything in your favor. One of the deepest lessons on the spiritual path is learning how to let go of control. Not because your life does not matter, and not because your choices do not matter, but because there is a great difference between living with intention and trying to control every detail of existence. Many people do not even realize how much of their pain comes from this habit. They think they are being responsible when they are really being ruled by fear. They think they are protecting themselves when they are really exhausting themselves. They think control will bring peace, but most of the time, control only creates more tension, more pressure, and more disappointment when life does not obey the plans of the mind. Control often begins in innocence. You get hurt, so you try to prevent future pain by planning everything. You feel uncertain, so you try to create safety by knowing every step in advance. You fear loss, so you hold tightly to people, outcomes, and timelines. You think that if you can just be careful enough, prepared enough, strong enough, or watchful enough, then nothing will fall apart. But life is far too living to be managed that way. Life breathes, it moves, it surprises, it changes shape. And when you try to grip it too tightly, you do not create peace. you create struggle. There is a picture that captures this so well. Trying to control life is like trying to hold water in your hands by squeezing it. The tighter you grip, the more it slips away. But when your hands are open, the water can rest there. The same is true for so many things in life. Love cannot be forced. Timing cannot be bullied. Healing cannot be rushed. Guidance cannot be dragged into form by anxiety. The very things you want most often require openness, not gripping. Flow, not force. Receptivity, not fear. When your hands are closed in control, you leave no room to receive. This is why control becomes so heavy. It asks you to carry what was never meant to live on your shoulders alone. It asks you to manage every result, predict every outcome, and fix every unknown before it happens. No human nervous system can hold that much pressure without becoming tired. And many people are deeply tired, not because they are doing too little, but because they are trying to do what only life itself can do. They are trying to hold together what needs to unfold naturally. They are trying to solve what needs time. They are trying to force clarity where only stillness can reveal the next step. Letting go of control does not mean becoming careless. It does not mean you stop praying, stop showing up, stop making choices, or stop honoring your responsibilities. It simply means you stop confusing fear with wisdom. You stop trying to make certainty out of what is meant to be lived one day at a time. You stop exhausting yourself by trying to keep the whole future in your mind. You begin to understand that there is a wiser way to live, a way that includes effort but not strain, intention but not panic, action but not force, a way of moving with life instead of constantly pushing against it. When you are caught in control, your body usually tells the truth before your mind does. The shoulders stay tight, the breath becomes shallow, the jaw hardens, the heart feels busy. Rest becomes difficult because the mind is always trying to solve, predict, arrange, and prepare. Even moments of stillness feel uncomfortable because control does not know how to relax without visible proof. It thinks relaxing means danger. It thinks softness means something will be missed. It thinks surrender means losing. But real surrender is not losing. Real surrender is trusting that you do not have to fight every moment of your life in order to be safe inside it. There is such freedom in that realization, to know that you can care deeply without carrying everything, to know that you can take your next step without needing the full map, to know that you can plan with an open hand instead of a clenched fist, to know that uncertainty does not have to become inner chaos. This kind of freedom changes the way you breathe through your days. It allows peace to enter places that fear once ruled. It lets the nervous system settle. It teaches the heart that not everything must be solved at once in order for life to remain good and meaningful. Many people hold control because they are afraid that if they let go, everything will collapse. But often the opposite is true. Things begin to come into better order when you stop interfering from panic. The mind can be loud, but it is not always wise. Fear can be convincing, but it is not always true. There are moments when you need to stop forcing and start listening. There are moments when the answer does not come from trying harder, but from becoming quiet enough to notice what life is already showing you. There are moments when the path opens, not because you pushed it open, but because you finally stop trying to go where you no longer belong. This is why letting go is not weakness. It is wisdom. It is the wisdom to know when effort has become fear. It is the wisdom to know when planning has become obsession. It is the wisdom to know when holding on is hurting more than helping. It is the wisdom to step back and say, I have done what I can do for now. I release what I cannot control. I let life meet me here. That is not giving up on your life. That is making room for grace. It is making room for timing. It is making room for something beyond your small, anxious attempts to control every outcome. Think of how many times you have worried over something that later unfolded in a way you could never have planned. Think of how many times you tried to force an answer and got nowhere, only for clarity to come later when you finally relaxed. Think of how often life has carried you in ways your mind did not predict. This is not an accident. It is a reminder. Life knows how to move. Life knows how to rearrange, align, and open in ways you cannot always see ahead of time. Your role is not to control the whole river. Your role is to stay honest, open, present, and willing to flow with it. Sometimes what keeps you suffering is not the situation itself, but the refusal to release how you thought it had to go. You may be grieving the loss of a specific timeline, a specific person, a specific outcome, a specific version of the future you built in your mind. And that grief is real. But there comes a moment when healing asks you to unclench your heart from the form you were demanding and open it to the good that may be arriving differently. Not smaller, not worse, just different. The universe does not always deliver blessings in the packaging your mind expected. Sometimes it gives you something truer than your plan. Letting go of control means making peace with that possibility. It means becoming willing to be surprised by life. It means loosening your demand that every answer look the way you imagined. It means allowing the future to be alive rather than fixed in your fear. This kind of openness can feel vulnerable at first because control often acts like armor. But armor is heavy. Armor keeps out not only pain, but also intimacy, trust, softness, wonder, and genuine receiving. There is a point where the soul becomes tired of living inside hard protection and begins to long for something gentler, something freer, something more real. If that longing is in you now, then perhaps this is your moment to begin releasing. Not all at once, not by force, but gently, one breath at a time, one thought at a time, one small act of trust at a time. You do not need to drop every fear in a single day. You do not need to become perfectly surrendered by tonight. You only need to start noticing where control is stealing your peace and then soften a little there. Where am I gripping too tightly? Where am I trying to force what needs time? Where am I making life harder because I am afraid to trust it? Those questions alone can open a great deal of healing. And once you begin to let go, even a little, you may feel something surprising. Relief, space, breath, a quiet return to yourself. Not because every problem is solved, but because you are no longer trying to solve life with panic. You are no longer making fear your main method. You are no longer asking your body to carry the impossible weight of absolute control. Instead, you begin to rest in a deeper truth. Life is moving. Life is wiser than my fear. I do not need to force what is truly meant for me. I do not need to carry what belongs to the universe. I can soften. I can trust. I can let the next step come when it is time. This is where so much peace begins. Not in finally controlling everything, but in finally realizing you were never meant to. Peace begins when the grip loosens. Peace begins when the breath returns. Peace begins when you stop dragging life and start walking with it. There is a quiet power in saying, I release the need to know it all right now. I release the need to force the answer. I release the belief that my fear is what keeps me safe. I trust that what is mine will come. I trust that what is leaving must go. I trust that what is unfolding can do so without my constant struggle. So let this be the beginning of a softer way, a wiser way, a way where your heart is no longer at war with uncertainty, a way where your spirit no longer mistakes control for safety, a way where you still care, still choose, still show up, but you do so with openness instead of fear. Because the universe does not need your panic to guide your life. It needs your willingness, your trust, your presence, your open hands. And when those hands finally soften, you may discover that life has been trying to place something beautiful there all along. There is something deeply comforting in this truth. What truly belongs to you is not lost. It is not wandering without direction. It is not confused about where to find you. It is not being kept from you forever. What belongs to you is being prepared, and you are also being prepared for it. This is one of the quiet ways the universe works. It does not simply drop blessings into your life without care. It arranges, clears, aligns, and times things so that what comes to you can arrive in the right way, in the right season, and with the right foundation beneath it. What is truly meant for you does not need panic to find you. It needs alignment. It needs readiness. It needs space. Many people suffer because they believe that if something has not arrived yet, it must mean it is not coming. They assume delay means rejection. They assume waiting means lack. They assume silence means nothing is happening. But the universe does not work only on the level of what your eyes can currently measure. It works in deeper ways. It prepares people. It prepares timing. It prepares endings. It prepares inner growth. It prepares outer opportunities. It moves one thing here and another thing there. It closes one door because another one must stay available. It slows one path because another one is still forming behind the scenes. What feels like emptiness may actually be preparation. Think about how often people ask for something before they are truly ready to hold it in peace. They ask for love while still carrying deep fear. They ask for success while still measuring their worth by struggle. They ask for change while holding tightly to the familiar. They ask for healing while still protecting old pain. This is not a judgment. It is simply part of being human. We often desire the gift before we understand the shape it will require from us. So life, in its wisdom, does not always rush. It teaches, it softens, it strengthens, it opens the heart. It removes what cannot stay. It helps you grow into the life you are asking for. That means what feels slow may actually be sacred. What feels delayed may be ripening. What feels quiet may be full of movement you cannot yet see. The relationship, the peace, the clarity, the healing, the opportunity. The next chapter you long for may already be making its way toward you through 100 small arrangements the mind would never think to count. A conversation you have not had yet, a lesson you are still learning, a door that needs to close first, a version of you that is still unfolding, a place in your heart that is still becoming ready to receive with trust instead of fear. All of this matters. This is why forcing rarely works in the long run. You can chase something before it's time, but if the deeper ground is not ready, it will not bring the peace you imagined. It may arrive and still feel unstable. It may come and still leave you anxious. It may seem like the answer and still fail to satisfy because the inner preparation was missing. The universe understands what the mind often forgets. It is not only about getting what you want. It is about becoming able to hold what is meant for you with gratitude, steadiness, and truth. There is such beauty in that. The universe is not merely granting wishes like a machine, it is working with your soul. It is shaping a life that fits not only your desire, but your growth. it is not just asking, what do you want? It is also asking, what will truly support your becoming? What will honor your peace? What will meet you at the level of your deepest truth? Sometimes that means the answer arrives differently than expected. Sometimes it means it arrives later than hoped. Sometimes it means certain things must fall away first. But none of that means you are forgotten. It may mean you are being guided with greater care than you realize. Imagine a home being prepared for someone precious. The room is cleaned, space is made, old things are moved out. The atmosphere is changed. The place is made ready to welcome what is coming. In the same way, the universe often prepares your life. It clears where you were cluttered. It removes what no longer fits. It changes what was blocking the flow. It reshapes your inner world so that when the gift arrives, it finds a place where it can stay. Preparation is love in motion. It may not always look exciting, but it is full of wisdom. This is especially important to remember if you have been comparing your timing to someone else's. Comparison creates so much unnecessary pain. It makes you feel as though you are late when your journey may simply be different. It makes you question your value because you cannot yet see what is being formed in your own life. But every life unfolds by its own design. Every soul has its own rhythm. Every path has its own preparation. You are not behind because your blessing has not arrived in the way you thought it should. You may simply be in a season where the unseen work matters more than the visible result. And perhaps one of the hardest parts of this lesson is that the mind often wants to rush the universe. It wants to say, I am ready now. Even when the body is still full of fear, the heart is still guarded, and the old patterns are still gripping tightly. But real readiness is not only wanting something, it is being lay to receive it without losing yourself. It is being able to let it stay without choking it with fear. It is being able to hold it without turning it into another reason to worry. That kind of readiness is gentle, deep, and honest. And sometimes life loves you enough to help you grow into that readiness before it places the next blessing in your hands. So if you are waiting right now, let your waiting become softer. Let it stop being a war with time. Let it become a quiet trust that what is truly yours is being prepared and that you are being prepared too. Let the pressure leave your chest. You do not need to chase what is aligned. You do not need to beg for what is meant to meet you. You do not need to tear open tomorrow to prove that your future exists. It exists. The path exists. The answer exists. And the universe knows how to arrange what belongs to you with far more wisdom than fear ever could. What is meant for you will not require you to betray your soul in order to receive it. It will not ask you to become less true, less peaceful, or less honest with yourself. It will meet you in a way that supports your growth, not destroys it. That does not mean it will never challenge you. But the challenge will be the kind that helps you expand, not the kind that keeps you trapped in old pain. What belongs to you will feel like truth, not constant confusion. It will feel like life opening, not only like fear tightening. Even if it comes through change, there will be something in it that carries peace. So trust the preparation. Trust the slowness, if slowness is what this season requires. Trust the clearing. Trust the hidden movement. Trust that some things are being kept from you only because something truer is being brought toward you. Trust that life knows the shape of the blessing better than your panic does. And trust, above all, that what truly belongs to you is not in danger of missing you. The universe is not careless with what is meant for your soul. It is quietly preparing it and quietly preparing you. Take a slow breath now and imagine yourself standing in a place of complete stillness. Not an empty stillness, but a peaceful one. The air around you is soft. The light is gentle. Nothing is rushing you. Nothing is demanding an answer from you. There is no pressure here to know the whole future. There is only this moment, calm and open, like a space where your heart can finally breathe again. Feel your feet resting on steady ground. Feel the quiet holding you. Feel the simple truth that for this moment, you do not have to fight anything. In front of you is a wide and peaceful path. You cannot see the entire distance, and that is all right. You can see only the next part of it, softly lit, calm, enough for where you are right now. The rest disappears into a quiet golden mist, not because it is gone, but because it is still unfolding. The path is there, even where your eyes cannot yet follow it. The future is there, even where it has not yet become visible. Let that truth settle into your chest. You do not need to see the whole road in order for the road to exist. Now imagine that in your hands you are holding everything you have been carrying too tightly. The questions, the fear, the need to know, the disappointment, the pressure to figure it all out, the worry that you are behind, the pain of what did not happen the way you expected, the exhaustion of trying to control what comes next. Feel the weight of it in your hands. Notice how heavy it has become. Notice how long you have been carrying it. You may not have meant to hold it so tightly, but you have been trying to protect yourself, trying to prepare yourself, trying to make life feel safe. And now in front of you, there is a quiet stream of light moving across the path. It is warm and steady, like a river made of peace. It does not rush. It does not force. It simply flows, wise and calm. This stream knows how to carry what you no longer need to hold alone. It knows how to take fear and soften it. It knows how to receive pressure and return peace. It knows how to move what your heart has been unable to move on its own. Slowly, gently, imagine placing each burden into that stream of light one by one. Place the need to control there. Watch it be carried away. Place the fear of the unknown there. Watch it loosen and dissolve. Place the pain of comparison there. Place the weight of disappointment there. Place the old question, when will it happen, there too. You do not need to force anything to leave. You only need to place it down. Let the stream carry what is too heavy. Let it hold what has lived too long in your chest. Let the current do what it knows how to do. Now feel your hands growing lighter. Feel your shoulders softening. Feel your breath deepening without effort. Nothing terrible has happened because you let go. In fact, a quiet peace is beginning to return. The path in front of you has not disappeared because you released control. It feels more open now, more spacious, more possible. You are still here. The road is still here. Life is still moving, but something in you is no longer trying to drag the future closer by force. Something in you is becoming willing to trust the pace of your unfolding. Look again at the path. Notice that the part you can see is enough. It is not the whole future, but it is enough for this moment. There is one next step, then another will come when it is time, then another after that. You do not need all of tomorrow in order to live today with peace. Let that truth enter you. You do not need the whole answer before you are allowed to rest. You do not need every sign before you are allowed to trust. You do not need certainty before you are allowed to soften. Now place one hand over your heart in this inner space. Feel the warmth there. Feel the quiet life inside you. That steady rhythm has stayed with you through every chapter. Through confusion, through waiting, through fear, through change. It is still here. Life is still here. Guidance is still here. Support is still here. And in this moment, say softly within yourself, I am willing to trust what I cannot yet see. I am willing to release what I cannot control. I am willing to let life guide me with love. Say it again, slowly, so your body can hear it too. I am willing to trust what I cannot yet see. I am willing to release what I cannot control. I am willing to let life guide me with love. Feel how those words settle. You do not need to force belief. You only need to be willing. Willingness is enough. Willingness opens the heart. Willingness creates a small opening through which peace can enter. Willingness says, I do not have to know everything right now in order to stop fighting this moment. And that is where so much healing begins. Imagine now that a soft golden light begins to gather around you. It is not distant, It is close, warm, and loving. It surrounds you from every side, not as a wall, but as a presence of care, a presence of safety, a presence that says you are not walking this path alone. You are being held in ways you do not always notice. You are being guided in ways you do not always understand. You are being carried even in moments when you think you are carrying everything by yourself. Let that light wrap around your thoughts, your breath, your heart, your waiting. In this light, there is no need to rush. In this light, your worth is not measured by how quickly life changes. In this light, you are not behind. You are not forgotten. You are not misplaced in the plan of life. You are in process. You are in movement. You are in a season that may still be unfolding quietly, but unfolding does not mean absent. Becoming does not mean lost. Hidden does not mean forgotten. Take one more breath in this gentle place. Feel the ground beneath you. Feel the path before you. Feel the light around you. Feel the space in your hands now that you have put some of the weight down. And know this, the universe does not need you to carry fear in order to guide your life. It does not need your panic to rearrange what belongs to you. It only asks that you stay open enough to receive what it is already preparing. When you are ready, let this image remain with you, the path, the stream of light, the open hands, the golden presence around you. Return to it whenever the mind grows loud. Return to it whenever fear asks for answers too quickly. Return to it whenever waiting begins to feel heavy. Let it remind you that life is still moving, even when the way ahead is only softly visible. Let it remind you that your task is not to control the entire journey, but to take the next step with trust. The inner shift begins with the words you allow to live inside you. Every day, the mind is repeating something. Sometimes it repeats fear without even noticing. Sometimes it repeats old pain, old doubt, old stories of not enough, of too late, of why bother, of what if nothing changes. These quiet thoughts shape the way you meet life. They shape the way your body feels. They shape the way your heart responds to the unknown. That is why affirmations matter. Not because they are magic words, but because they help you choose what kind of truth you want to practice living from. If fear has been speaking loudly, this is, and gentle truth must be spoken clearly. If old pain has been repeating itself, then new peace must also be repeated. Your inner world is always listening to what you say most often. Your body listens. Your heart listens. Your spirit listens. The nervous system responds to the messages you give it again and again. So when you speak words of trust, peace, worth, and openness, you are not pretending. You are teaching yourself a new way to live inside uncertainty. You are creating a softer home within yourself. Right now, you may not need long explanations. You may simply need simple truths that can be held in the middle of a hard day. Truths that you can whisper when the mind starts racing. Truths that steady your breath when fear begins telling stories. Truths that remind you that the universe is still working even when your eyes cannot yet confirm it. These are not empty comforts. They are ways of returning the heart to alignment. They are ways of calling your energy back from panic and resting it in something wiser. So begin with this. Everything is unfolding in my favor. Let those words be slow and honest. You do not need to force them. You do not need to say them like you are trying to convince the universe of something. Say them like you are reminding yourself of a possibility your fear keeps forgetting. Everything is unfolding in my favor. Not because every moment feels easy, but because even the unclear moments may still be serving something deeper than I can see right now. Now another one. I trust the timing of my life. This affirmation is powerful because so much pain comes from fighting time. The mind says, it should have happened already. It should look different by now. I should be further ahead. But life does not bloom through pressure. Life unfolds through timing. The seed does not fail because it is still beneath the soil. The sunrise is not late because the sky is still dark for a while. In the same way, your life is not wrong because it is unfolding differently than you imagined. I trust the timing of my life. Let that sentence loosen the pressure you have been placing on yourself. Another truth. What is meant for me is finding me now. This helps the heart release its fear that everything must be chased or forced. It reminds you that life is not only about effort, it is also about allowing. It is about becoming available to what is already trying to reach you. What is meant for me is finding me now, not in panic, not in scarcity, not in the belief that I must run after every answer. The universe knows how to bring what belongs to my path. And now this one, I release fear and welcome peace. Fear is heavy. It fills the body with constant preparation for what has not even happened. It makes every pause feel dangerous. It makes every question feel urgent. But peace does not come from answering every question. Often it comes from deciding that fear does not have to lead. I release fear and welcome peace. I do not need to keep fear as proof that I care. I do not need to stay tense in order to stay safe. I can care and still be peaceful. I can wait and still be peaceful. I cannot know and still be peaceful. Perhaps you also need this affirmation. I do not have to control everything to be guided. How often has control disguised itself as wisdom? How often has overthinking convinced you that it was protecting you? Yet so much peace enters when you remember that guidance does not require constant tension. The universe is not waiting for your anxiety before it can work. I do not have to control everything to be guided. This sentence can open a deep breath in the body. It can remind you that support is still support even when you are not gripping. Here is another one for the seasons of waiting. I am being prepared for what I have asked for. This changes the whole meaning of delay. It turns waiting into growth. It turns uncertainty into sacred preparation. It reminds you that this chapter may not be empty. It may be forming you. I am being prepared for what I have asked for, and at the same time, what I have asked for is being prepared for me. There is such comfort in that. It allows your waiting to become softer, fuller, more patient. And this one, I am not behind. The mind can be cruel with time. It looks at other people, other paths, other lives, and decides that your own unfolding must be wrong because it does not match theirs. But comparison pulls you away from the wisdom of your own journey. It makes you doubt the timing that belongs to you. It makes you miss the quiet sacredness of your own becoming. I am not behind. I am on my path. I am in my season. I am unfolding in the rhythm that belongs to my life. These are words of great healing. You may also need this truth. The universe is clearing what no longer belongs. Sometimes the reason life feels unsettled is because something old is being moved out. A pattern, a fear, a false attachment, a path that no longer fits, a version of you that has become too small for who you are becoming. When things feel messy, it helps to remember that clearing is part of preparation. The universe is clearing what no longer belongs. I do not have to fear every change. Some changes are the beginning of relief. And then this, I am safe in the unknown. This is a deep one. Because for many people, the unknown has always felt unsafe. It has felt like danger, lack, loss, abandonment. But what if the unknown can also be the place where new life begins? What if the unknown can hold surprise, grace, healing, and redirection? What if the unknown is not only where fear lives, but also where possibility lives? I am safe in the unknown. I am held even here. I am guided even here. I am not alone even here. As you repeat these affirmations, something begins to change inside you. The change may be quiet at first, very small, a softer breath, a slower heartbeat, a little more room around the fear, a little more space in the mind, a little less pressure in the chest. This is how inner shifts often begin, not with fireworks, but with softness. Not with a loud breakthrough, but with one honest breath where peace enters a place that used to be ruled by fear. Do not underestimate these small shifts. They are how the spirit learns a new language, and repetition matters. One time may soothe you, but repetition begins to reshape you. Repetition is how fear became so familiar. Repetition is also how peace becomes familiar. Each time you say, "Everything is unfolding in my favor," you are planting a seed. Each time you say, "I trust the timing of my life," you are watering that seed. Each time you say, What is meant for me is finding me now. You are strengthening trust in your body. Little by little, the old panic begins to lose its authority. Little by little, the nervous system stops treating every unknown as danger. Little by little, the heart remembers how to rest. So let these affirmations become companions to your days. Say them in quiet moments. Say them when fear rises. Say them when you feel behind. Say them when you want to force answers. Say them before sleep. Say them when you wake. Say them when you are waiting for something you cannot yet see. Say them not as pressure, but as nourishment. Let them be medicine for the tired parts of you. Let them remind you that the universe is not absent. It is moving, quietly, lovingly, faithfully, and your inner world can learn to move with it. There is nothing you need to force right now, nothing you need to prove in this moment, nothing you need to rush in order to be worthy of peace. Let that truth settle into you like a warm light. You do not have to hold your whole life together by fear. You do not have to carry every unanswered question into every breath. You do not have to make sense of every chapter before your heart is allowed to rest. Some things are still unfolding, and that is all right. Some things are still being arranged, and that is all right too. Life is not finished with you. The story is not over. The silence is not empty. If you have been tired, let yourself be held by that. If you have been questioning, let yourself be gentle with those questions. If you have been waiting, let the waiting become softer now. Not because waiting is easy, but because you no longer need to treat it like a punishment. This season may be asking you to trust in a deeper way than you wanted to. But deeper trust often brings deeper peace. Not because it gives you instant answers, but because it frees you from the need to control every unknown. It lets your spirit breathe again. You are not forgotten. This matters more than you know. In hard seasons, one of the deepest fears is that life has moved on without you, that blessings happen somewhere else, that your time has passed, that your path has become lost in the dark. But none of that is true. Your life still holds meaning. Your path still holds movement. Your future still holds possibility. Even now, in ways you may not yet understand, the universe is still working with your life. It is still clearing, still aligning, still opening, still preparing, still guiding. What you cannot see is not the same as what does not exist. You are not behind. You are not late to your own becoming. You are not failing because your path has curves. You are not missing out because your timing looks different from someone else's. You are in your life, in your season, in your unfolding, and your unfolding deserves respect. It deserves patience. It deserves kindness. It deserves the freedom to move in the rhythm that belongs to it. Flowers do not compare their opening. Rivers do not compare their route. The sky does not compare one sunrise to another. Everything has its own timing, and you do too. You are not alone. Even in the moments that feel private, quiet, and difficult, you are not alone. There is support moving toward you. There is wisdom moving through you. There is care around you, even when the mind is too tired to feel it clearly. The universe has not stepped away from your life. It has not misplaced your prayer. It has not forgotten what your heart has asked for. There is a tenderness at work beyond what you can measure right now. A tenderness that continues even when you doubt, even when you grow tired, even when you do not know what comes next. Let yourself receive that tenderness now. Let yourself stop pushing for just one moment. Let yourself stop trying to solve tomorrow tonight. Let your breath be enough for this moment. Let your open heart be enough. Let your willingness be enough. You do not have to become perfectly peaceful all at once. You do not have to trust without any fear at all. You only need to soften a little, to let a little more light in, to let one true thought replace one fearful one, to let the possibility of support be more believable than the story of abandonment. And perhaps that is the real miracle. Not that everything changes instantly, but that something inside you begins to change even before the outer answer arrives. A softening, a quiet hope, a return to trust, a willingness to believe that life may still be good to you in ways you have not yet seen. That inner shift is precious. It is how peace begins entering the future before the future has fully appeared. It is how the heart begins healing before the final answer arrives. It is how the spirit says yes to life again, even in the middle of uncertainty. So tonight, or this morning, or whenever these words meet you, let this be your reminder. The universe is not silent because it has abandoned you. It may be quiet because it is working. The path is not hidden because it is gone. It may be hidden because it is still being formed. The delay is not proof that nothing is happening. It may be proof that something more careful, more loving, and more aligned is taking shape beneath the surface. You do not need to fear what you cannot yet see. You can meet it with softness. You can meet it with trust. You can meet it with an open heart. So if your heart needs one truth to carry forward, let it be this. The universe is quietly rearranging everything in your favor. Even now, even here, even in the parts you still do not understand. The threads are being woven. The path is being formed. The old is being cleared. The new is being prepared. And you do not need to force what is already being held in wiser hands than your feet. Breathe and remember, everything is unfolding in your favor. Trust the timing of your life. What is meant for you is finding you now. Release fear and welcome peace. You are not forgotten. You are not behind. You are not alone. You are being guided gently and faithfully into what is truly meant for you. And in the quiet, while life continues its sacred work, let your soul rest in that,